Okay, so moving on to the middle section of materials here. So word book, you treat it just like you would a book, very similar to how you were doing the other work over there, where you can demonstrate sounding these out. If a child's worked really well with picture to word matching, then they're probably becoming more fluent. So this is where we're working on being able to identify these words more quickly. Their decoding process should start getting a little bit shorter, but I would still expect them to be decoding at this point. So they're not just gonna be like, gas, pad, tag. If they're there, then you got a rock star and you can move them through this material a little bit faster. But most of your kids are gonna go, gas, gas. So they might just need one review of decoding before they can fluently read the word, or a few prompts. Now this is also a good time to identify, are children struggling with specific letters that they can't identify very well, because you're going to start seeing a pattern of the different letters that they are struggling with. Especially a lot of students can struggle with P, D, and B. So you'll start to identify if those ones are struggles for them. And then you can go back and work with some of the other materials, reviewing those concepts, really focusing on probably beginning letter sounds of words to identify those more consistently for them. So just introduce a couple of words, reading through them, and then you can give it to the child, and then they can start reading through the book. This is not an activity that you have to sit next to the child while they're working on. Same with picture to word matching. Once a child's been introduced to the work, you can leave them to the work and then just ask them to come find you to check it when they're done. With this, I would occasionally sit with them to listen to them read the words, but it's not required that you sit with them every time they get this particular workout, because they can just practice reading through them. Okay?
And sometimes it's good to utilize your third year students to do that too.
Yes, absolutely. Using them for anything. Sometimes it is your third year student sitting with another third year student, so that's okay too. And then moving on to word lists. So again, what Shelby was saying earlier, what's the difference between word book versus word list? This becomes more complex because they're going to have to start using reading strategies to stay in line for where they need to be on the list. So being able to isolate one word is easier than seeing multiple words in a grouping. And so you can teach them reading strategies like putting their finger next to it. I demonstrated that. That's kind of my point of interest that I like to include every time that I do a reading material with a child. But you can introduce that here as well, or really encourage them to use it if they're struggling with identifying the words. So if you see a large gap between their proficiency in the book and then when they get to the list, you can start identifying what it is that's causing them to struggle. And then we have distinguishing here. So you can do this a couple of different ways. You can either give them a dry erase marker where they can go through and circle which one they think is correct through the whole thing, and then they can give it to the teacher and the teacher can review their work that way, or they can write it in their journal. So they can just write the full list of words in their journal, and then you can go back through and review it with them later. Does anybody else have any other strategies they use for this material?
You get the dry erase marker.
Do you like the dry erase marker?
Yeah.
Yeah, it depends on the child. If you have a child who's super engaged in writing, this is a great activity for them. You could even do it where they go through one time and do a dry erase, and then you have them copyright that material into their book. So if you have a child who's struggling to write, every opportunity that you can give for them to write is great. Same thing with the word list. Oh, back to word list for a minute. I forgot something you can do with these. I like to use these for dictation spelling or for memorized spelling. So the different ways that you can use this, if a child's been practicing this, they can practice writing this or just reading it. So you can do this with copywriting a lot. But then what you can do if a child, you're going to want to give them like a spelling test, you can have them read through the list, turn it over, and then write down as many words as they remember. And then they can flip it back over and check to see how many they remembered and how many they spelled correctly. So that's kind of a fun way for them to do it. Or you can use it as a dictation list. We don't do formal spelling tests, but a dictation would be basically a spelling test that you're not going to grade. And that would just be, or you can have an older child or a more proficient child read the list to a friend, and then that friend can write their words in the journal. Then they're given the list to check their work versus a teacher telling them if it's been done correctly or not. Okay?
And sometimes even add in the movable alphabet.
Yes. Yeah. So especially if you have a child who struggles with writing a little bit and you want to isolate that for them, they can use the movable alphabet instead. So I really rely heavily on your movable alphabet for just reaffirmation of writing concepts. They don't have to physically write to be able to write something or spell something. And then we have our mystery words. When I introduce mystery words, I don't introduce these like a booklet. I take them off the ring, and you'll introduce these like you would a 3-period lesson. Some of these are going to be familiar words. There'll be some CVCs in here, and some of them are going to be sight words. So there's going to be a nice mixture of both of them. So I would first go through this and just introduce each of them to the child. At this point, our focus is to for these to become more automatic words for them. So we're not going to focus on decoding them, okay? Because some of them really, they're not great at, like, R is not really a word that you can sound out. Ari. I don't know how you spell that. So you just introduce it. So this is R. This is N. This is Matt. R, N, Matt. And you have the child repeat you. Where is N? Very good. Where is Matt? Very good. Where is R? Awesome. So if they, and then the third period would be good to include. What is this?
R.
What is this?
Matt.
What is this?
N.
Very good. And of course you'd have those facing the child and not yourself. All things I don't think I have to say, but just in case anyone's wondering. So you go through that doing 3 at a time, go through the whole thing. And then you want to give the child a full test basically to see which ones they know. So what word is that?
Matt. N. R.
Okay, and then say this one wrong.
Bat.
So you're not going to correct them, you're just going to make 2 different piles.
Damn. Math. Nap.
You can say some of them correct, it's okay.
Okay.
You are not dead now.
Rat.
Okay, so go through the whole thing, making 2 piles of what they got correct, what they didn't get correct, and then I would review 3-period lessons with all the ones that they didn't get correct. So mad, tab, ham, and then the whole process again. And then I would go back through all of the ones they got incorrect and have them just read them off and again make another pile. You don't have to do this repetitively, like multiple times in a row if they're getting several of them wrong. I would probably send them back to work on their picture to word matching and their word lists and things like that. So every step of the process, you're identifying if a child needs more review with the concept or if they're ready to move forward. If she breezed through this whole thing and got all of them right, if you suspect a child knows these words and you want to just do like if they got it right or not to begin with versus doing a 3-period lesson, that's okay too. Just be aware you're probably going to have to go back through and do a 3-period lesson, or at least some of them, especially the sight words. Okay. Any questions about mystery words?
I don't have the mystery word.
Yeah, you do.
I hope you do.
I hope too. Like I'm like worried.
At what point do you introduce the
They're on
high
the other side of the
frequency sight
drawers,
words?
not inside your.
When?
No, I know.
Good question.
Yeah, I know.
We'll go over
Because
that in
we
just
went
a
through
Okay.
after we get through all the
They're in
A
there.
sounds. I'll
Gotcha.
go back. I should have introduced that.
There's nothing on the back that
Good
tells you which
question.
store they go into as
Yeah,
well.
I see the numbers in there. So.
All right. So then we have yes, no comprehension. And these are just very simple pictures of different type of comprehension questions that they might encounter later. So we have a rat in a pan, and we have a cat in a hat. And so I would review that with the child before you ask them to read the sentences down here. In the beginning, especially this early on with the first set of pink material, you might actually need to read the sentence for them. These are all words that they would have encountered in their mystery words. So this is also kind of a test. Can they read the sentence well enough that you feel like they'd be ready for the book? Because we don't want them to move into the storybook if they can't read this sentence. Because they're going to encounter these types of sentences in the book. So we have a rat in a pan and a cat in a hat. And then you ask the child to read, is the rat in the hat? I don't know. Is the rat in the hat? Let's see. The rat is in the pan. So is the rat in the hat?
Nope.
No. So can you write no on this line, please? And then you give them a dry erase marker and they can write no. So because this is the first time they're going through it, you're going to have to actually sit down and walk them through this whole process with each of the questions. Once you've gotten through the first probably 2 sets of these, then you can just let them know it's time to do the comprehension, and then they can come to you with the answers when they're done, so you can check that. Okay. And then we have sentence construction. So this was kind of their first introduction to a sentence, putting multiple words together. This would also be a good opportunity to use some of those reading strategies, like pointing to the individual words if they need a guide, to be able to put something underneath it so they can focus on just that one line at a time. That's where you can start identifying those things as well. So now we're going to form some of our own sentences. And it doesn't matter what order you introduce these. There's a specific set, and when you make your materials, it'll say 1 through 15. Those are just all the short A sentences. But it doesn't matter. You don't have to do 1, 2, 3, 4. You can just pick one out of random in there.
Oh.
All right. So there's a picture, and you're going to describe the picture with the child. So what do you see in this picture?
A cat.
And a can.
And a can. So the cat is in the can. That's very interesting.
And I always ask them what is on top.
What is on top?
What's on top? Because it always helps them when it's like, oh, which one comes first?
On top, yeah, with the way these sentences will formulate.
Mm-hmm.
I like it. So the cat is on top. The cat is in the can. So the very first time you do this, I would do just a basic. Let's make sure they can read each of these words. So what is this? Turned upside down.
Is the
Cat. Very good. So all of these words are going to form a sentence. Sentence that we just made. The cat is in the can. We're going to put these words in the right order. All right, so very first thing that we need to know about a sentence is that it always starts with a capital letter. Does anybody see a capital letter anywhere? Yay! It's a capital T. So this is going to be the very first word in our sentence, the. All right, so what is the next word that we should have in the cat is in the can? Cat, because the cat comes first. The cat. The cat is. Do you see the word is anywhere? Very good. The cat is
In.
in. Very good. Where's the word in? Yay. The cat is in
the.
the. Very good. Where's the word the? Don't jump ahead. The cat is in the
Can.
can. Very good. And then once it's formed, then I'll ask the child to read the sentence back to me. Can you read the sentence for me?
The cat is in the can.
Wonderful. Boop. Yes, I love that. So what is our sentence missing?
Period.
A period. Because we always end our sentences with a period. Or some other sort of punctuation that we'll go over later. So once they've written their first sentence, then this is where the journal comes back into play. I'd pull the journal out for them, and I'd have them write their sentence in their journal, and that's where they can actually add the boop at the end. The period. Anything you would add to that, Stace?
Nope. And just depending on the child, I always try to spell the. T-H-E spells the. Because we really don't add that in anything in the CVCs or anything like that.
Oh, it's in the mystery words.
It is? Okay.
Mm-hmm. So that you can introduce, that
So
concept.
I've just always done it that way, and then usually just by going, they already go,
I think also the fact that the sentences all start with the really helps to
Mhm.
reinforce.
And
the
then I
word
always
the.
tell them, hey, The third one is always is. And then I tell them the fourth one is either going to be in or on. So, and it helps them.
Yeah, that's good. And the whole point of this is to work on sentence construction, so we understand the way a sentence should flow. The basics of starting with a capital, ending with a period. So reiterating that during the process is important. But then we want the, is, and in to become an on, to become automatic words for them, so they don't have to struggle with those. Those are some of the most frequent sight words that they'll see. And so, especially the and is. So these types of activities are going to be really helpful in really solidifying that, so they don't have to decode any of those anymore. So once they've done one, then put this one away, pull out another one. Same process over again. Eventually, they'll be able to start doing this work more independently, versus you having to sit with them.
And they think it's fun to make it tricky for the next run too.
Mix it all up.
Make it tricky for them.
I've seen, I'm trying to remember which class I saw this in, they ended up putting all of the pictures
them
into
all
a
on a
booklet. You guys did that,
Mm-hmm.
okay. So all the pictures are on a booklet, and then you guys just keep these rubber banded.
I
Yes.
keep them rubber banded and they're numbered, so I say, oh, you're on number 1
Yes.
here, and you get number
So
1.
the back of them it says 13,
They can
and there's
match it,
13 all on the
Mhm.
back. And we do that when we make them, so it's also easy for us to sort them after we laminate them. But yes, if they ever get mixed up, it's really important to have those numbers on the back.
Is the booklet more efficient?
Yes and no.
Comes with its
Well,
pros and cons.
To make it neater, yes. And if you've only got one child, you just give it to them and then they can turn, I have them all on upside down. They just flip the book and get the next number, flip it.
Mm-hmm.
But if you have like 2 or 3 of them, then you have to go ahead and take them off the ring and do it anyway.
Oh, that makes sense, yeah. Which that's the nice thing about the rings is you can take any of them apart if you need to, so that's helpful as well. So yes, there's not a right or wrong way to organize these in the box, just as long as the kids know that the numbers,
It's just with my OCD, that bothers me.
having the,
Oh. So many.
yeah, and they
It
get
just
kind of
looks
stuck
messy.
together sometimes,
They
and it
do.
gets messy. I've never gone back, this is my set that I use for training, and I've just never gone back through to organize it a different way. But they're all in a box, so that is at least nice and neat.
And the label it.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
We need a label maker.
Label, yeah.
Oh, we have a label maker here at the office. You are welcome to